complete the job.
I'm Sara Nelson. I'm the International President of the Association of Flight Attendants, CWA, representing 50,000 flight attendants at 20 different airlines.
And you're out here on May Day at the ports of Oakland. What are your issues here, and how are they concerned with workers nationally?
Well, look, the ILWU invited us to come out here today, and this is a worthy cause. This is really about, is this country made for the people in the communities where we live and breathe, and the people who work and build and move America, or is it made for the corporate elite? And so when you are talking about putting a baseball stadium in the middle of a working dock and disturbing the ecological nature of the San Francisco Bay and giving less opportunity for our children moving forward, this is a fight that is obvious that labor needs to be in, all of labor, because we're connected here. You know, the goods that come off those docks are loaded by people with good union jobs who then contribute to our communities. And they're loaded on trucks with more good union jobs that deliver those goods to our communities. And we buy those goods in our communities when we have good union jobs. So this is what we really have to understand as labor, is that as much as the narrative in this country by the media and the White House is that we're divided, we're not. We have way more in common than anything that could ever divide us. And as flight attendants, we know that if there's not good union jobs and there's not thriving communities, there's no demand for our jobs, for planes to fly to those communities and for people to buy tickets out of those communities. So we are not separate. When we were asked to come here, we said we're all in because their fight is our fight too.
And during the shutdown, your members, a lot of workers, air traffic controllers, were concerned about health and safety, their own health. You spoke out quite strongly for an American trade union leader. Why did you take that radical stance?
Well, look, this is fundamental. In this country, we have a basic principle that if you go to work, you get a decent wage. And these people were being...
I think a train's coming. In this country, a big train's coming.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Transportation at its finest. So,
now you're talking about they're going to create new jobs.
We also have a principle that if you go to work, you're going to go to work in a safe environment. Now, those conditions were built by unions. And in our case, we can't do our jobs if air traffic controllers can't do their jobs. You want to talk about a safe condition. The first thing that we learn in our safety training is remove all distractions. Well, what is a greater distraction than wondering if you're going to be able to feed your family, if you're going to be able to keep a roof over their head while you're going to work?
I thought slave labor ended.
Slave labor ended, right. That's right. And so this was really about a moral question for us, but it was also fundamentally about the safety and security of the people that I represent, my flying partners who fly in those planes that the air traffic controllers direct. And so it was about our safety, and it was also about our entire nation's economy. You know, we know what happens when the planes stop. After 9/11, we lost hundreds of thousands of jobs. We had cuts in pay. We lost our pensions. We lost staffing. We've been working harder forever with less. And we could not stand by and allow that to just happen again. If this had gone on, air traffic controllers would have had to leave the job. They would have had to retire. We're already at the historical lows in staffing for air traffic controllers. So what this could have meant if this had gone on is 50% of the planes would have stayed on the ground because there's not enough staffing to operate those flights safely. Everything was on the line. Our safety, our security, and our economic stability. And so while we understand we're connected to other workers, and this was a question of morality too, this was fundamentally about our own rights to a safe work environment and our own rights to a secure job.
And do you think labor is getting fed up about what's going on in this country because it seems the real income is going down? Homeless, you go here in Oakland, you see people in tents, thousands of people in tents. Working people can't afford to live here. I mean, do you think it's coming to a...
Well, look, there's a lot going on. There's this idea that you should be lucky to have a job, and that if your neighbor has something you don't have, you want to pull them down instead of pulling yourself up. Those things are getting erased. And the idea that government's not the solution, it's the problem. This has been a decades-long attack on our psychology in this country about how we work together, how we need each other, how we need a democracy. And so what's happening is working people are waking up all over the country and finding that we are in the same shape. Flight attendants who are not making enough to make ends meet because they are working for a regional carrier.
Some are on food stamps.
Some on food stamps.
Is that unbelievable?
It's unbelievable. And some of those flight attendants who are making 45% less just because they're flying on a regional jet, some of them are telling me that now their spouses are losing their jobs at the Lordstown event or the bakery in Chicago. And so people are having a common experience here. And people are also having a common experience that no longer is it just one job to provide for your family. You can't even get a one-bedroom apartment on one job anymore. You've got to work 2 and 3 jobs. And so you also have hotel workers who are letting us know that one job should be enough and striking the largest hotel chain in the world and taking on what are incredible odds, it would seem, for working people. But when we come together, we know that solidarity is a force stronger than gravity, and all over this country, solidarity is winning. And power is not a limited resource. It is a resource that renews itself and expands every time you use it. And so that's what we're seeing from the teachers to the hotel workers to the flight attendants to the air traffic controllers. We're standing up together. And this is a spark that is lighting all over this country. We're understanding we're in this together. One job should be enough. And we're going to keep pushing this. And it's not just about what we vote for, but it's about what we do in our workspace. If we focus on our workspace and we come together and we challenge the corporations who employ us and we get them to do what they don't want to do today, which is what we can do by standing together and exerting our power, then politics will follow. And so we don't need to vote for saviors. We need to create a democracy that we are engaged in every single day by being engaged in our unions, in our workspaces. That's the answer for working people. That's what people are waking up to. And women all over this country are leading the way because they're saying, wage gap, we can take care of that with a union contract. So we are...
These politicians seem to be afraid of the women, particularly black women. They're terrified of the women.
Well, the women who have been marginalized their whole lives understand how to be creative with tactics about how to get the job done. Because for women who care for our children and have to make our communities work, we have had to make it work, even when we've had to sacrifice for ourselves. So these are the people who are going to bring forward the solutions, and what women are finding is that we can count on each other. Sexism was not just about keeping women down. It was about keeping women separate. It was about making women believe that they were in competition with each other. And we are breaking down those walls. Women are finding their way to each other. Cecile Richards just announced a new supermajority pact just yesterday to talk about how women are joining together to build our power. 54% of the electorate in the last election was women. We are the majority. And when we stand together, we can make great change. And we're seeing that in women-dominated professions all over this country who are striking and standing up and fighting back. And that is only going to grow in number and in power.